Okay, so here's my algebra unit for, my name's Sean Hicks, by the way. It's hicksalgebraunit.weebly.com. And here's a little funny picture that's just on the main page of the website to get the students interested. The unit title is The Significant Uses of Functions, and I have my unit summary and subject area here. And the grade levels for 9th grade to 12th grade, depending on when they're taking the course, since Algebra 2 is can be taken within those years. It can even be taken at college level, but this is more targeted for a high school level, hence the high school functions right here. So part of it is going to be interpreting functions, where they need to understand the concept of a function and use function notation. They need to interpret functions that arise in applications in terms of the context, analyze functions using different representations, and then for building functions, they need to build a function that models a relationship between two quantities. And they're also going to be learning about linear and exponential models, not quadratic in this unit, but later on they'll learn about that. So they need to construct and compare linear and exponential models to solve problems. For student objectives, by the end of this unit, they'll be able to show their knowledge and areas of improvement in the form of scores on quizzes, which they will be able to compare against scores of other students to see where they stand. They'll be able to clearly illustrate their thinking process through a series of thought-provoking journal entries, which relate to the essential unit and content questions below. And they will be able to demonstrate their knowledge of exponential and linear functions through Multimedia Project and class presentation. So here's the essential question. What is the significance of algebraic expressions and functions in our lives? Unit questions kind of branch off of that. How can they use linear and exponential functions outside of the classroom? And when is it appropriate to use a linear versus exponential model? And how can you use them to predict future values? My content questions are basically definitions. What's the definition of a function? And explain it in your own words. What's it mean for a function to be linear or exponential? How do positive and negative functions translate to the real world? For linear functions, and how do exponential growth and exponential decay translate to the real world. So that's just the main page. Underneath the main page, if you hover your mouse over home, you can get to contact information. And there's a picture of me, not a very good picture, but I didn't have time to take one, so I just took that one. Contact information, my email, that's not my real email address. I just made one up for the purpose of this website for right now. Meeting hours for after class, my phone number, also fake phone number, and then I'm the site editor. Also, I have a unit plan template right here. It's embedded. It's basically everything that's on the first page, plus the timeline broken down right here. I'll show you the timeline in a separate document. Just some other stuff that we have to go through and things that will be required in this class that are checked off. For assessments, well, first before we get into assessments, there's this link to my Algebra Fundamentals site, so if they click on that, we can open that in a new tab. And well, that linked them to the wrong site. I'm going to have to change that later. It's supposed to link them to my other website. I'll fix that later, right after this. But for the resources, they can click on this button right here, and that brings them to my Digo website, where I organized specifically for this algebra unit. I have another group for the other website that we created. So they have these 10 links, and underneath the link it tells you what it does. So I have stuff on direct proportionality, exponential word problems, calculating rate and exponential growth using logarithms, simple compound and continuous interest rates, which they actually do their graphic organizer on, college algebra according to this university, the rule of 70 and 72 compared, exponential growth and decay, APY definition and calculations, and introduction to algebra functions and relations. So those are all resources for the students. And then as it's noted right here, complete after the unit is finished. It's a survey, so they can type in their name and then they can just answer all these questions about what was useful to them, what they liked the most, and it sends it to my email after they complete it. So under assessments, I have this assessment summary. It basically talks about how the class is going to be graded, quizzes, journals, and projects. And then I have my assessment timeline. So here's my entry-level assessments, and then all my progress monitoring assessments, and then my summative assessments, which are more towards the end. It takes about 30 days to complete this whole unit, so it's about a month long. I'm sure it can be shortened, but this is just a guideline for it. So looking at the assessments, we have entry level. I have a picture for like entry level stuff, and basically they have this journal for algebra in their life. Questions like, what key concepts that you learned today do you think may be useful? Which key concepts do you think would be important in your future career? Have you ever used a linear equation in your life outside of this class? How? What about exponential functions? How have you used them? List some examples. And then a KWL chart for some terms. So those are just the entry-level assessments. And then for my formative assessments, the very first one is the Weber size, and that links them to the Weber size right there. So I have the directions here. It's embedded, so when they click on this article, it says read the following article, and when they click on it, it links them to that article, and they're going to read through this, and then after they're done reading through it, they're going to answer the questions. Algebra 2 is a leading predictor of what? And then I'm asking them some thought-provoking questions like, why do you think that's the case? And I do that for all these other links that I give them. It should take most of the class period, maybe not all of it. And then back to formative assessments, the next one is the notebook check. So basically that's the teacher lecture. They're going to go through here, watch my lecture videos that I have up, and I also have some graphs and stuff for them to download. They're PDFs, so anyone can download it whether you have Microsoft Word or not. After they do that, as I note right here, make sure you are copying down your notes as well, because we'll be doing a notebook check as part of an assessment on your progress. So that's the notebook check part as the formative assessment. And then last, I have these two assessments. This is a 10-question quiz. I give them way more than enough time. 45 minutes is definitely enough. And then it sends the score to me somewhere, not to my email. And then this quiz is different. I give them the directions. They're basically going to click on this link, which is going to take them to the quiz site. They're going to make a login and everything, and it gives me stats on how they're doing. Then we have summative assessments, like the Multimedia Project. So for my Multimedia Project, this is just an example. I have the guidelines here and the rubric. They basically have to create a real-life example, and this is my my student sample. If it opens up, it's going kind of slow, but pretty much this computer manufacturer sells computers for $800 each. It costs the company $10,000 a month plus $200 to manufacture each computer unit. So this student pretty much created a cost function, and in the end what happened was they got the cost function, the revenue function, and the profit function, and then they got all over here and created a graph for it. So that's just one of this is the Multimedia Project. So, and then I got the graded rubric there also. And then we have one more summative assessment, the graphic organizer. So while it loads, this one's embedded also. So I give them this graphic organizer. They can, through Scribd, If you embed through Scribd, it allows them to download it also while it embeds it, so it allows them to print it. So basically I show them what a Venn diagram is, I give them the directions on how to do the assignment. They're going to watch 2 YouTube videos, take notes in each circle, and then wherever they find similarities, they're going to delete them from those circles and put them in the center section if there's a similarity. I give them all the directions right there, and then I give them a rubric. And this rubric is very small compared to the other one, and I embedded it. It's not on a scale of 4 to 1, it's on a scale of A to D or F, and it only has 2 categories, content and whether they followed directions. So I basically take the average of their 2 scores and tell them to create their own Venn diagram. This brings them to Lucidchart so that they can create that diagram. There's the 2 YouTube videos. Here's a sample, and then they can zoom in on that so they can see the information in there. And then I have the sample rubric and some information on how I graded it. So that sample got a C on content and a B on following directions, so I averaged it to a B minus because it was still a really good example. They just didn't follow directions very well. Lastly, no, that's actually about it. I showed the assessment summary, yeah. So that's my website. I really enjoyed this class. The Weebly was really fun to get used to, so I would suggest using that next time. Compared to Google Sites, I really enjoyed using Weebly. It's so much more user-friendly. So that's it for my website, and I really enjoyed doing it. Thank you.